Meaningless stuff. Why do we gift so much meaningless stuff? Tired of generic gifts and hollow trends? Shutterfly allows you to create meaningful photo gifts for your family and friends. Whether it's a cozy fleece blanket for grandma, a stunning canvas print for mom, or a mug to make dad smile. Enjoy 40% off with code MAKE40 at Shutterfly.com and make something meaningful this year. See site for more details.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
All right. Welcome back to the MisFitNation. Last episode, we got to hear from Dave Sanderson and spoke about his resilience and mindset along with his new book. It was a great discussion, and we look forward to talking again on another episode. Thank you for being on, and keep us posted on your ventures in the future. Now, for anyone who has gone through a traumatic experience or witnessed one or had a sudden change in their life due to an incident can attest, it is hard to figure a way through it. For a lot of people, when an event occurs, they will be told by everyone around them, we are here for you. That is great. It is supportive. The problem occurs when it is the mindset of the person going through it doesn't believe that others have ideas of how to actually help them, so they ignore the help. Most who say they are there really will be there. They just need to understand what they can do to help. Trauma does not come from being at war only. It comes from many forms. It can stem from mental and physical abuse as a child or as an adult, or sexual assault any time in life, a car wreck, being a victim of a violent crime. Just about anything can cause trauma in your life. You will hear people say, it is not how many times you get knocked down. It is how many times you pick yourself back up that matters. That is a true statement. However, if it takes you a while to get back up, you're not a failure. You're just really working at it. I've seen the strongest, toughest people I know fall to pieces after being engulfed in trauma for too long. Many of those have struggled with drug abuse or went full bore into drinking to try to hide their problem, put a Band-Aid on there, so to speak. Some of them never came back and are not with us anymore. On this episode, you will learn about a man who joined the Marines as a young kid, went on to become a Hollywood Marine in the infantry, and deployed in the support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. He came home and just was not his old self. He witnessed a lot and lived on the adrenaline high for too long. He was now alone in his own thoughts. I met him a few years ago and have followed his journey since. He is a man of God and a great family man. So without further ado, let's get Mr. Andrew Jones on here.
All right, welcome to the show, Andrew Jones. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
Very good, man. It's been a long time since we talked, and mission continues. I was your fellowship program specialist. You were rocking it in Arizona, and just tell us a little about you and how you got to where you are now, from whatever point in your life through service until now.
Right on. That's a lot to talk about, man. That's all good though. No, man, it's been a wild ride for sure over the years. You know, mission continues. What was a big part of it. It's kind of right smack dab in the middle of a lot that was going on. And, prior to that, of course, joined the Marine Corps. I was just a young buck, 17 years old. My mom's tears are on my enlistment papers, And, I remember it was so funny, man, because when I joined, she was like, if you join, I want you to join the Army. But if you don't join the Army and you join the Marine Corps, then don't join the infantry. And so I joined the Marine Corps infantry, And I was just like, at 17, I saw it as, I want to do something in the Marines that, one, is going to challenge me, and two, that I can't do in the regular world. And at the time, it sounded like that was a cool thing, like that was going to go on this great adventure, so back in 1999. And I didn't really have that foresight of, if I do something in the Marine Corps that I can't do in the regular world, then when I get back to the regular world, I'm not going to be able to do anything, and I really struggled with that when I got out, as do a lot of us,
Yes.
And so, so I joined 1999, pre 9/11, had no idea what was going to happen in a couple of years. And I was doing my thing and we were training, and 9/11 happened, and it was all of a sudden like, okay, things just got real, and it was like, all right, it's game time. And one of the ways I always describe it as, though, there was a sense of excitement, because I always looked at it like, if like, imagine being on a football team, and if you just practiced and practiced and practiced day after day after day, and you never got to play a game, it would kind of suck,
Oh, yeah.
And so, we're training day after day after day, and it's like, all right, now it's go time. Let's go. And, so it was, I didn't end up going to Afghanistan. Our unit held off until Iraq, so we went out to Iraq in 2003. We were part of that initial shock and awe push up into Baghdad, in that very first part. And it was crazy, man, and the way I always look at it, like, is just, there was so much constant movement at that time that every time something would happen, a battle would happen, a skirmish would happen, something traumatic would happen, it was just, file it in the back of your head and move on. File it away, move on. There was no time to process. There was no time to figure it out. It was just, what's the next mission? What's the, what's the next patrol? And it was just move, go. And for me, as soon as I got home from that deployment, everything started unpacking in my head. It was like, my brain was like, hey, you're home now, you're stateside, all of this stuff that you have filed away, everything that you went through, we're going to unpack it now, and we're going to go through it all. And that started, it really started messing with my sleep. It started messing with my personality. It started messing just with my behavior, that, when that PTSD and anxiety and depression and all those things start to hit, especially when you don't understand it, you just start thinking you're crazy and not really knowing what to do, like back in, 03, like there wasn't really much, talk about PTSD, there wasn't really much, going on with it. There wasn't really services. It was just, there wasn't really much about it. And of course, you don't want to talk to the other guys about it because you think you're crazy. And that's what I went through for a while, just years of waking up screaming in the middle of the night, waking up in cold sweats, seeing dead bodies on the road when I drive. Like, I mean, just all these things were just being, reliving in me. And I'm trying to figure out what is wrong with me. And that eventually led down a road of heavy alcohol use, of, seeking out adrenaline rushes, and led to drug use, and ultimately led to me trying to kill myself a couple of times. And, it's one of the main times that I always love, sharing because of the impact with it, man, is this was back in 2007. And I sat in the closet. I had a gun to my head, H&K USP 45 pistol, locked, ready to go, pointed at my head, and I'm sitting in the closet, and I'm just done, man. I'm tired of hurting my family. I'm tired of being a bad example to my kids. I'm tired of being a burden to people. I'm tired of just being who I was at the time. And my 1.5-year-old son was sitting in the room next to me. His room was next to mine, where I was in that closet. And as soon as I went to put pressure on that trigger and pull back on it, I heard him scream, the loudest scream that I've ever heard from him before in my life. And it was crazy how it happened in that very moment. And I remember letting go of the trigger, setting the gun down, taking a deep breath, and just having this moment of clarity where I realized that I wasn't the man who he needed at that time, and I wasn't the father that he deserved at that time. But if I pulled the trigger, if I went through with this, then I would kill every single possibility of ever becoming that father, never becoming that man in his life. He would never know me. He would know pictures of me. He would know stories of me, but he would never know the man that I could potentially become if I just keep going forward. And
right.
I didn't know how it was going to happen. Obviously I'm still lost. I'm still confused. I'm still frustrated. I'm still, lacking hope, all those things. But I just knew that I had to keep going. I had to keep going forward day by day. If it was a day where it was hour by hour, then that's what it was. But I had to keep going forward. And it wasn't still for another 4 years before I finally came to a place in my life where I started to make small changes. And, I met my wife, who was, obviously girlfriend at the time when I met her, and she's bringing this positivity to me. She's saying things to me that I haven't heard from other people. She's talking to me about this guy, Jesus. And I'm like, no, I don't want nothing to do with him. Like, don't even talk about him. And I'm blowing it off. And in 2012, she finally talks to me into starting to go to counseling. And I'm like, all right, I'll see a counselor. I'll see what happens, And it was a time where I had to decide whether this relationship with her was going to be something I valued or not, because we were getting into crazy arguments because of my behavior. I was waking up screaming in the middle of the night, terrifying her. She's jumping out of bed, just afraid of what's going on. She didn't know what to make of it all. And so I'm like, okay, I find value in this girl, in this relationship. She wants me to get help. I'll go get help. And so I went down this path of seeing a PTSD counselor at the Phoenix Vet Center for a while. And about a year into that, things weren't really changing too much. It was getting a little bit better, but it was still nothing positive. And my counselor goes, hey, there's this veterans program that meets up in Payson, Arizona, up in the mountains out here in Arizona. It's this retreat program. I've heard great things about it. Are you interested? And I was at that point, I'm like, whatever you got, like, I'll try anything right now. And so I agree to this program. I go to this program in Payson, Arizona. First day there, I go through this counseling session with this lady, Betty, up there. And by the time it's done, I'm ready to die again. I'm like, this is it. This was too intense. This brought up too much for me. I went back to the room that I was staying in. I grabbed the keys to my car, and I already had a plan. Like, on the way up there, I'd already picked out a spot that if all else failed during that weekend, I knew what cliff I was going to drive off of. And I grabbed the keys. I went to head out the door, and I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm out. Nothing's going to work. And I'm telling you, man, as soon as I went to go walk out that door, I heard a voice come over me that said, if you're going to do this, then you need to exhaust every opportunity that's been given to you first. And I knew exactly what it was talking about. I had yet to really, truly look to God in a way that wasn't me being mad at him or me cursing him or in that kind of a way. And so finally, it was like that moment came over me. I had that moment where I just said, okay, this is it. I dropped down to my knees. I said, if this is my last go at trying something in my life, I said, okay, God, if you're real, if you're there, if you love me, show me something. Let me know I'm where I'm supposed to be. Come into my life, show me something. And I had no idea how to pray correctly, like nothing. I had no idea how to call it to God. I just said what came out. And I'm telling you, man, in that moment, I felt his arms wrap around me and lift me to my feet, dry my tears. I smiled. I felt joy. I felt hope. And I knew he was real in that moment. And I felt him say to me, I love you. You're exactly where I need you to be, and everything's going to be okay. And wow. That moment, everything changed, man, everything. And I remember I called up Chelsea. I called her up. I said, you have no idea what just happened. And I'm trying to tell it to her, and I have no idea how to explain it correctly. And she's crying on the other end of the phone. She goes, as soon as you started talking, I heard something different. She goes, you just sound different. And I was like, I feel different. I don't know what's going on. And the rest of that weekend, everybody that saw me was like, oh, man, that counseling session must have been awesome because you just seem like a whole new person. And I'm like, you have no idea what just happened. You know? and I'm trying to explain it, but I don't know how. I'm just, fumbling over myself. But man, from that moment, I just knew. I said, okay. And I remember telling God in that moment, I said, okay, you're real. I'm in. What do you need me to do? Just that Marine Corps mentality, like, okay, I'm in. What's my mission? And he gave me two things right off the bat. One, he said, marry Chelsea. Like, he just confirmed with me right there. He goes, Chelsea's your wife. That's who you need to marry. And I said, got it, no problem. As soon as I get home, I'll get a ring, I'll propose, done, you know? And I did. And then I said, okay, what next? And this is what I've been holding on to ever since that moment. He said, I need you to tell people that there's hope, and I need you to let them know that I love them. I need you to share your story and let them know there's hope and that I love them. And I just said, okay. I have no idea what that's going to turn into. I have no idea how this is going to happen. Like, back to that moment in the closet again. I don't know how I'm going to move forward. I just have to. I don't know how I'm going to share my story now, but God said to. So, okay, let's go, you know? And,
right,
you know, I don't know if that comes from just a grunt mentality of like, hey, go take the hill. How? I just go get it. Like, just rush the hill, you know? I don't always know the exact plan, but it's like, hey, this is your objective. Go get it. Okay. And so I saw it like that. I'm like, okay. And so going forward from there, man, it's just every opportunity I had. I'm like, if I can share my story with somebody, if I can get in front of people and talk, if I could get on social media and share it, like, however I can do this. And so that started leading me down the road of making connections with people. God just started working in my life. He put the right people in my life. And, you know, the first nonprofit I worked with was the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They knew I was a veteran. They were like, hey, we got an event coming up. Would you share your story? Yes, absolutely. And so I started working with them. And then that's where I met Wendy, who ran the Ripple Effect, which is who I did my fellowship with when I was doing the Mission Continues. And so I get involved with American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the Ripple Effect, you know, out here in Arizona. I get, you know, hooked up with the Mission Continues to work with the Ripple Effect and start developing programs and mentorship things and just start trying to figure out this nonprofit world and how to help veterans the best I can and how to get my story out there. And, you know, from there, it was like, okay, you know, I'm trying to learn this whole nonprofit thing. I started my own nonprofit, which was Operation Shockwave, ran that for a couple of years. And was just making these deep impacts in the community within veterans, with the National Guard, other military units out here. And it was just crazy how things were moving forward. It's like it seemed like there just kept being an abundance of opportunities that God put in front of me to say, here's another opportunity to share your story. Somebody needs to hear your story here. And that's how I would approach it every time. If whether I was in front of 20 people or you know, there's times I've been in front of 1,500 people. I know there's one person there that needs to hear what I have to say. And there's one person that needs to know there's hope. They need to know that God loves them. And they need to know that no matter what you've gone through, what you've been through, no matter the struggles, no matter how deep you were in that darkness or how hard you hit rock bottom, there is hope and you can turn it around because I did. And this is my example. This is my story. And it's been incredible, man. And in doing that, God has elevated me in my life. He has blessed me and my family incredibly, and just continues to bring those opportunities to where now, you know, I stepped away from the nonprofit world. It ended up being a place I just didn't want to engage in anymore. I wasn't able to do things to the extent I wanted to. You know, anybody who knows much about the nonprofit world knows there's a lot of issues with that, a lot of, you know, things that you have to stay under and guidelines and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I just want to be able to tell my story the way I want to tell it. And so I stepped away from that and just still made myself available. You know, I let veterans organizations, military units, just anyone know, hey, this is my story and I would love to come share it. You know, if you think it'd be beneficial to your specific group of people. And I've been moving forward like that ever since, man. And it's just been a blessed journey.
So you're doing it basically as a solo guy now, just getting booked, kind of like I booked you for this call.
Yep.
You just get booked to go to, say, Pendleton or Huachuca or whatever, and talk to the Marines. That's pretty good now.
Yeah, man.
It's a lot of freedom.
There's so much freedom in it, and it's so awesome. You know, I'm really tightly connected with the National Guard out here in Arizona. There's over I think it's 76 National Guard units that are in Arizona alone. Wow. And I'm connected with their suicide prevention and risk management teams and programs. And so anytime that a unit shows any kind of high risk behavior or anything comes up as far as substance abuse, they call me right up and they're like, hey, will you come speak to this unit? Yep, I'll be there. Just tell me when. And it's been awesome, man.
So you go to like their battle assemblies and stuff for the National Guard?
Whatever they're doing, man. If it's a drill weekend that they're doing, then they'll take an hour out of their day for me to come talk to them. One of the last times I went, they were out on a live fire range, and they stopped the range and they brought everybody in, gave me an hour to talk to them, and they went right back out to training again. It was pretty cool. So.
They're probably just happy to get out of the elements for a little bit.
Right. And that's the thing too. And I've been out, and I always hate saying this. How long have I been out now? 15 years, but going back and speaking to these units and seeing these young soldiers and Marines in their element out there doing their thing, it's like I never left, and that camaraderie, that ability to stand in front of them and speak to them as a fellow warrior. It's like that part of me never left. It's like God retained that part of me. Like he's like, you still need to speak like a Marine. You still need to have a presence about you to stand in front of these warriors and speak to them in a way that they're going to hear you, even though you're 15, 16 years out. I always like to say I'm domesticated now, but it's like you go back to that kind of environment, and it's just, it's like you never left. It's beautiful.
That's my work day every day here. I get to see the young faces of the military, and I can still see the faces I served with in them. Right. Each soldier kind of just repeats what the soldier did before him. Yeah. So when they come before me in class, I look out there and I see the soldiers I served with, just with different uniforms now. Yep. So it's the same stuff over and over again, and I get pride and joy just being able to teach them something that'll help them survive the modern day conflict. Right. Whereas you get to teach them how to survive the conflicts within. So it's two very important things.
Absolutely, man. It's all a battlefield. One's a physical battlefield and one's a battlefield in your mind, and over your body. It's just, it's two different battlefields. And that's the thing that, kind of to circle back to that statement I was making of okay, the Marine Corps, it's something I can do that the world doesn't offer, but I get out to the world and now I can't use any of this anymore. I started learning how to use it. I started learning how to take battlefield tactics and strategies that were meant for war, for physical combat, and take those things and be able to adapt them and apply them into this spiritual warfare, into this warfare of my mind. And it works. It's the exact same tactics. It's the exact same things. You just go about it a different way. You have a different weapon, a different kind of enemy, but it's the same tactics and strategies. So it was like almost this whole time that I'm learning battlefield stuff and going out to war and becoming a Marine and fighting in combat was all preparing me for this other war that I was going to be facing later on in my life. And it's been cool.
Exactly. They filled your tool bag when you were 17 years old when you went to the island or to Hollywood there, went to training. Hollywood. You went out there and you got your training out there, and they taught you, if there's gunfire over there, you charge to it, 2 bags full, you take it out. And that's what you're doing with everything else you do. You said just a little bit ago that you take that same mentality. You go over there and talk to these people. I got it. I'm going to help them out. You charge with your 2 bags full, and you make sure that they're coming back with their 2 bags full.
No, absolutely, man. And one of the things that I share a lot that it seems to really bring an impact when you're able to line this up. Just something as simple as calling for support. Right. On April 8th, my unit was in Baghdad, I shared this story about how we got ambushed and, by over 300 Fedayeen soldiers, and we're just taking casualties, and it was an intense moment. And, our platoon commander goes to his training and he gets on the radio and he calls for support, and ultimately gets air support that comes out, drops a couple of bombs on this compound that we're taking fire from. And we get the upper hand in the battle and we end up winning that engagement and we accomplish our mission. Something that simple where it's like, yeah, that makes sense on a battlefield. Now I'm home. Now I got this enemy of depression, anxiety, guilt, shame, anger, all these things coming at me. I'm sitting in a closet with the gun to my head. What do I do? Get on the phone and call for help. Call somebody, and it's like, there's so many times that we as warriors, especially like combat vets, it's just, you feel like, I'm too prideful to do that, or I should be able to handle it on my own, or I'm showing weakness if I call somebody in tears saying that, I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel like killing myself, like there's a weakness to that. Like, no, there's not only is there a strength to it, that was your training. You were trained. You were told when you're overwhelmed by the enemy, get on that horn and call for help,
And like when you came in 99, I came in 6 years prior, 93. it was a stigma if you asked for help for situations
Right.
like that. If you stepped up and said, something's wrong with me, infantryman, you're no longer an infantryman. You're going to go be a clerk or a cook or something because we don't need you out here. You're not man enough for us. And that kind of stigma stayed with many until I'd say around 2007 time frame when they finally started saying, hey, these guys are coming back with some things going on in their heads.
Yeah, no. As soon as they started recognizing that, things, and there's still the stigma. I think that's always going to be. You there?
Yeah, I got cut off.
Oh,
yeah. So I was just saying that we let this time go up. All right. Okay, so like that stigma was still there in 2007, and then they finally started saying, "Hey, these guys and gals have things going on. We need to start thinking about this mental health thing, this mental health game, and get some social workers in the ranks." And by 2010, when I went back to Afghanistan, they were right there on the fob with you.
Right.
If you came back from patrol, they were there to talk to you and see what they can do to help you de-escalate what's going on in your head before you go back out again.
Yeah. No, and that's incredible. And I'm so glad that happens now. Like I was saying before, that when I was out there, it was just one mission to the next, to the next, to the next. No time to process, no time to nothing. And even when I was out there, that's when I really started heavily drinking, man. Like there was a lot of alcohol while I was out in Iraq, and we would drink. We'd be on patrols, and be hungover from the night before. And that right then is like when it started. I don't want to deal with these thoughts. I don't want to deal with what just happened. It's just let's just drink and then go back to work tomorrow. Let's get it back up in the morning and get back out there.
Right.
And so man, it's just them taking it, like the military taking it more seriously is huge. And from what and they are taking it more seriously now than they were in the past. But from what I understand, it's still an issue. There's still that stereotype or that stigma out there of like, don't ask for help or else you're going to lose your clearance. You're going to lose your job. You're going to get discharged. But when it comes down to it, man, what I always tell guys is like, would you rather end up in the closet with the gun to your head and pulling the trigger, or would you rather get discharged and then, figure out how to live a purposeful life?
Right.
It's so important to be able to address those things and to be able to, put them out there on the forefront. When I started talking about it finally, I did it through writing, and I started writing poetry, I started writing stories, just whatever I could do to write, to get it out of my head and onto paper. However that came out is how it came out. And when I started doing that, I started sharing that with some of the guys I was in Iraq with. At the time, we had just started this Facebook group, just trying to bring us all back together and reunite on Facebook. And I started sharing it with them. And the craziest thing, I thought some of the guys were going to, tease me about it or just, joke around about it. But every one of them that engaged and responded to it were like, you know what, man, I remember that too. I think about that too. I wake up, having nightmares too. And I was like, wow, I had no idea. I thought I was the only one dealing with this. And before I knew it, guys were opening up and talking about their struggles, and it became something incredible, to where when we knew somebody was struggling, we knew who to reach out to and be like, hey, someone needs to call so-and-so, or this guy's struggling, reach out to him. Are you in his neck of the woods? Go to him. And we just started helping each other out, and it was awesome.
Right. It comes out back to the thing that they need to learn that they do need support and they are not alone.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. You are not alone.
Right.
There's a whole big world out there of people that can help you. There's phone numbers that you can call. Your best friends are out there just waiting to answer that call. They don't want to have to go to another call from you. They want the call that says, hey, I'm going to be on the phone with you all night talking to get you off that ledge or get you out of that mindset and back on the right path until I can get to you, depending on how far apart we are.
Yep. Absolutely, man. And one of the most common responses I get when I talk about, when you're overwhelmed by the enemy here at home, get on that phone and call for help. And one of the most overwhelming responses I get from people who are still dealing with that negative mindset is, I got nobody to call. There's nobody who would answer the phone. And and one of the things I tell them is, one, you'd be surprised. You really would be surprised who will answer that phone and help you out. But two, if you really feel like that there's nobody in your life that you could trust with that phone call, then find new people in your life. Go seek out different people. Go get involved somewhere. I tell every veteran, like, If you're not involved in your local community veterans organizations, then you need to be. Like, it's one of those things where we would never go out on a patrol in Iraq if we didn't know the units in the area that we could call on for help. If there wasn't a quick reaction force somewhere that we could reach out to, if there was a mortar somewhere that we could call for fire to, you don't go out on the patrol without a plan of knowing this is who we have to call for support. And I don't want to go a day in my life without knowing that I have at least 2 to 3 people in my phone that I can call for help if something ends up happening and overwhelming me for this day. And if you don't have those 2 or 3 people, then go find them. They're out there. You just have to find them.
Right. And they're there. You just don't know they're there most of the times. There's like I said, there's someone always sitting there waiting to be that shoulder, right, or that head that's going to be with your head as you go through that little hiccup. And these problems are temporary. They don't need to be permanent solutions to these temporary problems.
Absolutely.
So we need to wrangle up our battle buddies, and keep them moving forward, and so we can all cross the rainbow bridge together when we're old and decrepit.
Right. That long life, man. And that's one of the things that I had to switch my mindset on. There was guys that we lost over there. There was, and even the suicide later, and you do tend to get into this depression of like, man, like, why wasn't it me that died? Like it should have been me. He had a family at the time. I didn't. We go into this depression, and of course, every year on a death anniversary, I always see, Marines out there and other, veterans who are taking shots for who they lost, on that particular day, and they're getting drunk in a bar somewhere for somebody. And I've told people, when I die, don't you dare dishonor me by getting drunk in a bar for me. Like, no, go live your life for me. Go live a successful, purposeful life in honor of me, and that's how I want to see it. Like everyone who I carried this burden of, of their death. It's like, why am I going to live this life of alcohol and depression and suicidal behavior when I made it home? Like they didn't. So let me go live a double life for them. Let me go, hug my kids tighter, love my family more, be more successful than I ever thought I could be, because I want to do it in honor of them and live a successful, joyous life and do it in honor of them. Not go down this dark hole of depression oh, I'm so sad that so-and-so. Yes, we're sad. We mourn their loss, but let's live a purposeful life for them,
Right. That's definitely right. Definitely true. So if you had to do anything over again, would you join the Marines again? Would you change anything that went on in your life to get to where you are now?
Not a thing, brother. Not a thing. My life, and there's probably a few years ago where I finally came to terms with that, where I'm like, you know what? Where I'm at right now is because of what I went through. And, every suicidal thought, every depression, every down part of my life. I lost custody of my kids for a while. I had to go through 2 years of court battles just to get, basic parenting rights and visitation back with them. And, went through so many struggles, so many, and I wouldn't change a thing of it, because right now where I'm at in my life is a beautiful place. My family's blessed and healthy. My marriage is incredible. I love my wife like crazy. Me and my children have a great relationship. And now I can show that I've been there, done there, got the t-shirt. Like I've gone through the struggle. And now here I am, and I'm nobody special. I'm just another grunt, And so if I can get here in my life, then what you're going through, you can get through that too. And one of the things I tell people so much, and I'll sit down with the veterans going through some things, and undoubtedly, a lot of times they're like, man, I just wish I could live the life that you're living right now. I wish I could be where you're at. And I always end up responding to them, and I say, if you want to live the life where I'm at, then you have to go through the life that I went through. You have to go through this process. There are things that you're going to have to do and press into day after day after day. And knowing that there is hope, knowing that there is greatness on the other end of it, but you're going to have to press into it, So no, man, I wouldn't change a thing. Definitely. I wouldn't change a thing.
Awesome. And how do it, if a unit's listening on here, National Guard, any active duty, whatever is listening, how would they get in touch with you to reach out to
the
you?
easiest way through social media. If you search just AJImpacts, like IMPACT, AJImpacts on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can go to AJImpacts.com. I got a website up that has different video clips. I'm on YouTube. You can find different clips of my speeches and different engagements that I've had, and my story. So yeah, if you just search that on the computer, you will have no problem finding me and getting in touch with me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, it's been great catching up with you. We can do this again. That was a quick 30 minutes, and that's just half the story
There's
right there.
plenty more to talk about, man, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you reaching out. I'm glad that I was on your heart to reach out to for this, man, and just giving me an opportunity to once again share my story on a different platform. And I appreciate you, man, and I appreciate everything you did while I was with the Mission Continues. You guided me, you helped me, you were wonderful there, and I know you're continuing to do great things, man. So thank you so much.
No problem. I appreciate everything you're doing and will continue to do, and I look forward to seeing that.
Amen. Future. Right on, brother. Have a good one.
You too. Say hello to family.
Right back at you.
All right. Bye. All right, brother. Bye.
Wow. That was a deep talk with Andrew. He's a very humble dude. He's been through a lot, but he's also going to be there for you if you need him. Do not hesitate to link up with him, even if it's just a chat. So you know how we do this. Thanks for taking some of your time to spend with us on the Misfit Nation. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and share the link as much as possible. We appreciate you. As always, till next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are the Misfit Nation.